Gonna leave that alone. So we're gonna talk about our culture segment. All right.
What?
So might be a little controversial segment.
Not at all.
We hope you still love us after this. So we're gonna talk about Megan Rapinoe, all right, and the women's soccer team. She was just in Charlotte actually yesterday, this whole weekend. How do you guys feel about her, Kaiser? How do you feel about the whole U.S. women's soccer team and everything?
I love that it has become a movement.
Yeah.
I love the message that they are sending. One of the things I actually hate to hear from people is, I don't want politics in my sports. And although I understand that sentiment, the truth is that sports is politics. It always has been. It always will be. And then, so now we have people like her in the women's soccer team that are using that platform, to send a message, because whether they know it or not, being white women, they're in a position where people are going to listen to what they say, regardless of whether people like it or not.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? NFL players lose their careers over making similar sentiments. Black NFL players, a predominantly white women's soccer team, they're going to, people are going to listen. They're celebrities now. And so in that regard, though, I'm not saying that as a negative. I think that is great that they're using their platform for that. The idea of equal pay, we spoke about that a little bit last week, and unfortunately the numbers don't bear out like we would like them to. It's the argument with the NBA and the WNBA. There's just not enough revenue on that side, for it to be equal. So
I want to speak to that very quickly, and I'll let y'all. I will move on really quickly, man. I had a conversation with just somebody random this week, and I didn't even know the guy, and we started discussing, the women's soccer team, their pay versus the men's pay, U.S. soccer team. Now, for anybody who knows, the U.S. men's soccer team is terrible. They didn't even qualify. They didn't qualify last.
And they've been terrible.
They've been terrible for a while. And he was explaining to me, like, with the whole system, it's like a global pay scale. Like, it's not just the U.S. The U.S. is not really getting paid by any governing body in the U.S. It's like this, wherever the governing body over the Olympics is basically paying all the men and they're paying all the women. So it's hard to say, hey, the U.S. women's team is obviously a lot better than the men's team. Why aren't they getting paid more? So the point that I made to the gentleman was, well, if that's the case, and that's viable, but being that that's the case, the U.S., it's, I don't want to say responsibility, but it's upon.
They do have an obligation.
It's upon the U.S. as an entity to make sure that these women are getting paid properly through sponsorship. Through sponsorship. Now, it obviously might get a little tricky with what's going on and who decides that they want to hop on board with with the U.S. Women's team now. But at the same time, if they do, it's really their responsibility to say, you're at least doing a great thing on the field. If you think they're doing a great thing off the field, make sure that they're getting compensated for it. So just wanted to kind of mention that real quick.
I think I'm gonna have a pretty long-winded answer here, because this conversation could go in 20 different directions.
I think we all have a lot to say.
Yeah. First off, on behalf of Under Construction, I just want to apologize to the U.S. women's soccer team, because they won the World Cup a couple weeks ago, and other than Rodney's shout out, we really haven't given them too much attention.
Right.
So we probably should have done that sooner.
Yeah.
So our apologies and congratulations on winning the World Cup.
Dominating.
Yeah.
In regards to the pay, how much they should get paid in relation to the men, personally, I'm going to leave that conversation alone, because I've seen so many arguments, so many different narratives. I don't think I'm properly educated right now to speak on that particular topic. So I'm going to leave that alone before because I don't want to put myself out there like that, and then the whole world be coming for me like you guys are going after Jermaine Dupri right now for his different rapper comments. Another conversation. In regards to the House of Soccer here in Charlotte, I know we're not soccer fans, but in the next 5 years or so, I think we will be soccer fans. Even even if by not by choice, because the soccer community here in Charlotte is so strong. I didn't know there was a house of soccer going on, but I know traffic was crazy yesterday downtown.
So on Friday night, me and my wife went out to eat because we just were uptown, and we went to they had the events going on after the event for soccer thing, the house of soccer thing, and the crowds out there at 9 o'clock at night was still strong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Charlotte is ready.
Yeah, so, and for those of you that aren't aware, House of Soccer, I believe, is an actual annual event between ACF and Arsenal. Those are the two teams that played this week, and throughout the entire weekend, it's basically just a celebration of soccer. Yeah. And Megan Rapinoe, she was actually out there, and she hosted some sort of a clinic out there helping the kids with the drills and all that good stuff. And they interviewed her. They gave her a platform to continue to speak on 45. And they asked her in regards to what happened in Greenville, and we'll talk about that later. Did she feel like he had crossed the line, he being the president? And she said, well, no, he didn't cross any lines, because the lines that he crossed were crossed years ago. He's always crossed lines before. And I kind of want to use that to kind of segue into Colin Kaepernick. A lot of people didn't know who Megan Rapinoe was until this recent run by the U.S. soccer team. Right. But she has been kneeling. Well, she knelt first in 2016. That's when I first learned who she was. She first knelt in 2016. Now, with them winning the World Cup, her status has actually been elevated in addition to her protest, which is great. Now, granted, she still has the people that her detractors and her critics, but overall, her status has just completely taken off. And I absolutely love her for taking a stance in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. But I saw a quote a couple of years ago that essentially said that when it comes to activism, the originator of the movement almost always tends to be the martyr, and his or her followers end up being the one who benefits off of that movement. And I think this is the perfect scenario right here, because while her status is being elevated almost to rock star like status, Colin Kaepernick, what is it? He hasn't played football in 3 years. Right. You know, forget the 2 NFC title appearances. Forget the Super. He has a legitimate resume, and yet he can't play football while her status is completely taken off. And one more thing I wanted to highlight the privilege that she's allowed in comparison to Colin Kaepernick. When asked about the current administration, Kaepernick answers questions, but he kind of beats around the bush. I don't think it would be good for me and him to be sitting in a room together. That's a way to say no while being politically correct about it. Right. Megan Rapinoe, I'm not going to the effing White House. It's blunt. And she's allowed to get away with it. So, again, I appreciate and I applaud her for taking up the fight as well. I just wish in response, Kaepernick was allowed to.
Well, actually, I got a question about that. Seeing that Kaepernick is probably never going to take another snap in the NFL, shouldn't he be saying things like that now? Does it matter now? Because we're saying she's allowed to and he's not, but I
have a counter question to that. I wonder why he's been so quiet lately. I really do. I think it's a fair question. Because ever since that settlement check, we haven't heard much from him.
That's a fair question. As much as I hate it, that's a fair question.
No, I do too. I don't like it, but I have to ask it. You know what I mean?
Now, to get to your question first, because I don't think he would be allowed to be more blunt now, because if he comes out now and be a lot more blunt, the response would be, see, it was never about football equality. It was always about him wanting to increase his platform. Mm-hmm. Why has he been a lot more quiet? The only thing I could say would be that from the start, he has always said that he didn't want other people to join his movement. It was something that he'd done on his own fruition. Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever expected himself to be an outspoken activist, so to speak. And once everything happened,
it was a snowball effect.
It was a snowball effect,
Yeah.
and I'm not justifying his actions or his lack thereof, but I honestly think Kaepernick is in a position now to where no matter what he does, it's going to be met with criticism.
Well, that's kind of why I'm saying, no matter what he does, I mean, people either, no one's in the middle on Colin Kaepernick. Either you support him or you don't. And so nothing he does or says will change. If someone hates Colin Kaepernick, he can't say anything that's going to make it right. So at that point, why not?
I think that's going to be an ongoing theme in this.
Yeah. I mean, why?
And even if he was allowed to come back in the NFL and he agreed not to protest, then the narrative would be, see, it was never about equality. He just wanted a starting spot or more money. So, I really think it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't scenario for Kaepernick. While others are allowed to
voice their
loudly protest.
Now, I will say, I don't follow baseball, Kaiser or Jamal. Maybe you guys can help me out. There was one baseball player that did kneel.
For the Oakland A's, actually.
And he's out of the baseball now.
And he hasn't played since.
Baseball, but we all know
baseball. Good old boy.
Now, and it is in a way, it's kind of hard to defend him. This is me being devil's advocate. A lot of people say Kaepernick is out the NFL because he was a mediocre player. A lot of people say Megan Rapinoe is allowed to do what she does because she's a legitimately good soccer player. The baseball player, when you go look at the stats, he bounced around in the AAA or in the minors for like the first 4 or 5 years.
I'm an Oakland A's fan. That's another story.
You're not a real fan of Charlotte sports.
But he basically got called up because of injury, man. So
he played like 3 seasons sporadically, and then I think in his 3rd season was when he knelt.
Yeah.
And like we haven't seen him since.
The truth about whether or not Colin Kaepernick is out of the league because of his play, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Because there are some teams that legitimately, that we know, did not want Colin Kaepernick to play in the NFL because of his stances. And there were some teams that wanted Colin Kaepernick, but either they felt that he wasn't worth his asking price, or they knew that he wanted to be a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, look at the Seahawks. They pursued Colin Kaepernick, and it just didn't work out because, I mean, he's going to sit behind Russell Wilson. And Colin Kaepernick don't want to sit behind him.
Well, now, I don't think that's the case because I think he was willing to accept the backup role, but Pete Carroll came out in the interview and said, we see Colin Kaepernick as a starter, and we don't want to have a starter as a backup. And that was their justification for not bringing him on.
I'm certain that sentiment's true, but I mean, they did reach out to him about coming to the team. I don't think they would have reached out to him if they thought that, well, you're not going to play. I think that was kind of their way of helping Colin Kaepernick save some face. I don't think they wanted, teams like, we looked at the Ravens, even the Panthers kind of talked about it. I think there were a lot of teams that were interested in Colin Kaepernick's services.
But here's one thing I want to say regarding Megan Rapinoe. Make no mistake about it, y'all. Make no mistake about it. The vitriol this woman has against her is very real.
I agree. Like this morning, I was looking in the Panthers group because she took a picture with Christian McCaffrey, and the vitriol that was spewed in that group.
Yeah,
it was just like all this woman is doing is voicing her opinion. She's not forcing anything. All you do is just tune out if you don't like it. And the things that she was called and the sexual attack
and that same, and I saw the same post you did, and the amount of people in that group was like, I got to find a new team to root for, and how could the Panthers do this?
They said the same thing about the Eric.
And you stole my thunder because I was just like, y'all were probably the same people that said the same thing when Eric Reed got signed. And you're still here. Shut up.
Let me add one more thing in regards to the privilege that she does have as a white woman. I don't know if you guys have known this, but while here in Charlotte this weekend, she's actually been asked if she's going to run for office at any point.
Wow.
Could you imagine Colin Kaepernick submit his name for whatever?
Man, they would dissect.
Could you imagine that? Like now, granted, she She said she don't think that life would be for her.
Right.
But she didn't. She didn't close the door all the way. She left. She cracked the door.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because here's a thought I had on the way here today. Because there's also been a lot of vitriol with the squad, so to speak. We all know that's Ayanna Harris, AOC, Omar, and God help me out with the other senator, Congresswoman. But we know y'all know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that ironic, but it's a little ironic that the squad gets met with so much vitriol, along with Megan Rapinoe, and they all are kind of telling the same message. They all are speaking to equality for all. That is the central message with all 5 of these women.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you don't love America. Like none of these women love America because they want equality for all.
And there's a quote that goes with that, and I'll let you get it back, Rodney, to speak what you were saying, Jamal. To those that have lived a life of privilege, equality feels like oppression.
All right, so
there it is.